Hello everybody and welcome. This is the Apostate Prophet and welcome to another episode of The Apostates. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today I'm here with a guest that I have been wanting to speak to for quite a long time, but I didn't really have the opportunity to speak to him before. Mohamed Noval, who has notoriously in Egypt become known to the public on TV. To the rest of us, he has become popular in a very nice way, especially to the ex-Muslim community, to atheist activists, and to activists who criticize Islam and who deal with issues with free speech in the Muslim world. His appearance has also been a landmark for science in the Islamic world, especially in Egypt. But I don't want to talk too much about him. I would like to let him speak. Hi, Mohammed. How are you doing?
Hello. Thank you for having me in your show. It's a true pleasure, and I really appreciate it. Well, I'm Mohammed. I am originally from Cairo. I'm an atheist. I've left Islam when I was a teen, and I've studied engineering. I became an electrical engineer. And in early 2018, I've actually appeared on TV, and I went public with being an atheist in an attempt to neutralize being an ex-Muslim in Islamic countries. Unfortunately, the consequences of that was not so good, and later I had to escape my country and travel to have sanctuary in the West.
So what happened is that you were invited on a TV show in Egypt. You went on and you spoke about how you don't believe in God and how you explain the origin of humans and of the planet in a scientific way. And then you were kicked out for just that. And afterwards you had to flee.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Let's just look at the clip so that everyone can see what exactly happened, what we are talking about.
أنا ملحد، يعني أنا مش بصدق في وجود ربنا ومش بصدق في دين. تمام؟
ايه ثاني؟
أنا ملحد، فأنا مش بصدق في وجود ربنا أو بصدق في دين بس. ده الإلحاد. أنا مش محتاج الدين عشان أنا يبقى عندي أخلاق أو إن أنا أبقى نافع في المجتمع.
بقيت ليه ملحد؟
علشان مفيش أي دليل على وجود ربنا، أي دليل علمي، مفيش أي.
ازاي مفيش دليل على وجود ربنا؟ أنت بتتكلم إزاي؟ يعني ايه مفيش دليل على وجود ربنا؟ مين اللي وجدك أنت إن أنت تكون موجود هنا كإنسان أو كبني آدم؟
أنت عارف أنت اتخلقت إزاي؟
ماشي، في فرضيات. ماشي، هقول لحضرتك في فرضيات كتير بتفسر ان وجودنا هنا على الكوكب ده، وفي فرضيات كتير بتفسر
انا بسأل اتخلقت ازاي؟ بقيت بني ادم.
ما ترد إزاي؟ انت بقيت بني ادم ازاي؟ انت موجود ازاي في الكون ده؟
تمام. طيب هقول لحضرتك في فرضيات بتحاول تفسر وجودنا، تمام؟ منها فرضيه ان ربنا خلقنا، خلاص. في فرضيات بقى تانية عليها ادله اكتر كتير، زي مثلا نشأة الكون اللي هو البيج بانج، تمام؟ اللي هو الانفجار العظيم.
كلمنا عربي. بص يا محمد، كلمنا اللي بيشاهدونا ناس. انت بتتكلم في مصر والمواطنين بسطاء بيسمعونا، كلمنا بالعربي، بلاش المصطلحات اللي مالهاش لازمه.
هو المصطلحات بس سببها ان العلم ده كله اتعمل بالانجليزي، ولما الواحد
انا علم اللي انت بتكلمني عليه. انت عندك حاله من الارتباك، حاله من عدم الثقه، بتتكلم ان انت بتنكر الاله، بتنكر ربنا، بتنكر الدين، بتنكر كل الثوابت. طب انت ايه؟
سؤال صغير، ليه دي حاجه وحشه؟
لا طبعا حاجه وحشه. انا فعلا بص اقول لك حاجه، انت جاي بتتكلم في فكرك، انت ما عندكش فكر. انت عندك الحاد، عندك كفر. ما ينفعش ان انا نخلي ده. انا بقى اسف جدا وبتاسف لمشاهديني ان يكون معايا شاب مصري بهذه الصفات. انا اسف فعلا ان يكون معايا محمد. انا مش هقدر اكمل معاك ولا تبقى موجود معانا في الحلقه للاسف، لان فكرك لا يتناسب. ما ينفعش ان احنا نروج لافكار اصلا هدامه. انت ما قلتش ولا كلمه من اول ما قعدنا مقنعه.
شوف حبيبي، هي انت محتاج تتعالج نفسيا. مرض نفسي بينتاب كثير من الشباب نتيجة لظروف معينة في أسرهم، ظروف مادية، ظروف معنوية.
طب هناخد بالك يا شيخ. طب انت محمد فعلا زي ما بقول لك الشيخ محمود، انت فعلا رحت لدكتور نفسي؟ انا بنصحك على الهوا ان حضرتك تطلع من هنا دلوقتي على مستشفى الامراض العقليه، تكشف عن نفسك. انت ما ينفعش تكون موجود، للاسف مش هقدر اكمل معاك ولا هتبقى موجود معانا في الحلقه. انا بستاذنك ان انت تفضل تقوم وانا هكمل حلقتي مع الدكتور محمود، لان للاسف افكارك هدامه وتضيع الشباب المصري، وللاسف انت مثال سيء جدا للشباب المصري. هنطلع لفاصل يا جماعه، وضيفنا يغادرنا، وهكمل مع الدكتور محمود. وانا اسف مره ثانيه لمشاهديني، لا انا اسف جدا ومره ثانيه ان يكون معايا مثل هذا الشخص. انا اسف وبتاسف تاني لجمهوري ان انا جايب شاب مصري جاي بيتكلم في افكار للاسف ما عندوش اي حاجه مقنعه وما عندوش اي حاجه ممكن يقدمها، وده مثال سيء للشباب المصري وهم مش كتير للاسف. يا محمد انت ما ينفعش تكون موجود، ونصيحتي انها تطلع لمستشفى الامراض العقليه.
So Mohamed, what did you feel about this whole experience? How did you feel while this was happening?
During the show, I felt like, well, I felt all different emotions. I felt anger, I felt fear, I felt everything. However, the dominant emotion was that I'm representing a minority that does not get a chance to express itself, and I had to be a good representation to them. And being a good representation is to actually serve the goal, and the goal was to actually neutralize being an ex-Muslim, neutralize being an atheist. And the way I found that conversation is going toward aggression and hostility, I didn't think that that was serving this. So my whole hope was for him to calm down so that we could continue our conversation, and maybe I would be able to persuade him or other people who watches us to accept us more and not to be hostile toward us. But personally, yeah, I felt shock. I felt fear of the consequences of things that will happen to me. I felt, yeah, and the fact that you are already on TV, it's in itself normally is very nerve-wracking. So, yeah, having to be in this situation, it was not so easy.
I really admire you. I mean, it's a very courageous act. I can honestly not imagine myself go on public TV in a country like Egypt and just sit there and calmly talk about what I believe and have this guy yell at me. It must have taken a lot of courage for you to actually go there.
Well, yeah, I have went with the mentality of sacrificing myself for the cause, actually. Growing up in an Islamic country, seeing all the injustice that happens in the name of Allah or religion or whatever, yeah, it could make that, I guess. It could drive people to do some things that might seem maybe defeating or something, but it's totally worth it, I think.
But the funny thing is, he told you. I mean, he didn't ever let you speak. He didn't let you speak more than 3 sentences or 2 sentences. And then he even ironically said that you didn't present anything convincing, that you didn't say any proper word that would convince anyone. And that's funny because he didn't even let you speak. So how could you present anything? But what did you expect? I mean, why did they call you there anyways? Do you think they just called you there because they wanted to humiliate you, or?
Yeah, during this period in the Egyptian parliament, there was some Islamist members suggesting that they would make it like they would suggesting harsher sentence for people who leaves the religion, who leaves Islam. Already there are penalties in place for people who criticize the religion or heavenly religion, as they say, as the Abrahamic religions. But they wanted even to make that harsher. So for this occasion, I think this talk show wanted to maybe host atheist people and then defeat them in public. And yeah, that's how I think they wanted to make an example, so that other atheist people would be afraid. Because previously to my show also, there was that news of people who got arrested for criticizing Islam. They were doing it, I think they were mocking religion or something, and their friends have reported them to the authorities and they got arrested, and I think they had a case against them. So yeah, there was some talking about that. Thankfully, the situation does not got much worse from a legal perspective after my show. However, there was some incidents of atheist people who were kind of active in criticizing Islam and who got actually in a lot of trouble. After my show, I think, and after this law, and after those people who got arrested, Sharif Gaber is an Egyptian blogger, is an ex-Muslim, and he was being very popular among certain groups of people, especially teens. And he managed to have some influence. Unfortunately, Sharif got a prison sentence against him now. It all started maybe after my appearance by months or so. Other activists also who got unfortunately banned from leaving the country, and basically maybe if I may say, they are living under national security control. They cannot travel, and doing the wrong move would put them behind bars or humiliate them. Every once in a while, one of them gets falsely arrested and get humiliated a little, and then they send them back. As long as they are like under control, they can survive, I guess. Mm-hmm. There is not much people who are like this. It was only maybe Chief Gather and two other activists and me. People who actually done things on Egyptian soil, while they were in Egypt and got publicly known and famous and whatever. It's very few.
Were you active before you went on the show? How did it happen? How were you invited on the show? Did you already have a presence? Were you already known as an activist in a circle? How did that happen?
No, not really. I usually kept to myself. I had kind of very introverted life. I only had like my studies, my work, my thing, and I had that profile on Facebook, a very, very low-key profile. And one day in a group, atheist group, like closed group for us, somebody said that there is a TV show searching for somebody who is atheist to appear there. And of course, it's not so big of a group because not many people are interested in being an ex-Muslim activist out of course, the consequences that they might suffer. And even this small group, people there were not enthusiastic to appear in this show because it's social suicide, prison is a possible consequence, travel bans or false arrest, all the madness that would happen. People would lose their jobs, would lose their lives. Anyway, so based on that, they were not interested, and actually there was some of them advocating against going there. However, I felt like sacrifices have to be made, and and I felt maybe it's an opportunity to represent the community and maybe sway a little people to a little group of people to maybe take our side. And I think I achieved that with some success. Some of the Muslim people who watched the show have actually sympathized with my situation. They only done that, of course, because they saw that I could go back to Islam and I did not get an opportunity to express myself fully. But I think, that was a good consequence. Some people, some atheist people now would tell me that, after seeing your show, I was a Muslim, but now afterwards, that thing got me thinking a little, and now I'm an atheist. So that's very good outcome.
That's good. I mean, you didn't even say anything inflammatory. You were very calm. You were very, very collected. You didn't give any harsh responses. You didn't even express any criticism. I mean, you were just sitting there. This guy's basically insulting. Both of them are insulting you. Both of them are telling you that you have mental problems, that you have to go see a psychiatrist, which is very funny because. Just because you said that you accept a more scientific approach of why we are alive and why we exist, and that you don't believe in God, and the religious imam in front of you directly said that since you don't accept the existence of God, that you must have mental issues, which is very ironic, But the thing is. In the West, we have seen a lot of issues where critics of Islam, where people who mocked Islam or people who mocked the Prophet, that they were attacked. And some people have come and said that this only happened because those people engaged in mockery. But in your case, you didn't even do that. You didn't even say anything critical of Islam. You didn't offer any mockery, anything at all. You were just the most respectful, the most calm person that you could be, and you were just there. You took everything that this guy said, You didn't even respond in anger, and you just said, "I don't believe." And let me explain. I believe that there are several theories, like the Big Bang. That's, by the way, one thing that I find very funny when you talked about the Big Bang, when you said that there's a theory of the Big Bang. For example, the host said, "Speak Arabic, don't speak English." You are speaking to simple people. What is Big Bang? What science are you speaking about? Is that a normal reaction?
Yeah, I think if more, I've actually everything I said in English I was translating in Arabic, and I thought maybe if I introduced some, I don't know. I believe that many people in the Middle East have to learn English because I think if I didn't learn English, I wouldn't have left Islam, because a lot of information are being censored in Arabic. A lot of things, a lot of philosophy, a lot of things that is crucial for people to get to know. And so I think English is very important to learn. It's the language of science. It's all the interesting research, interesting thinkers. Everything is either in English or translated to English. So it would be very educational if people from a developed country learn more English. However, of course, the bad part of it is that you would have people who are advocating for very regressive values who can actually have good access to the West through internet. And that is also a little problematic because some people get influenced. For instance, here in Germany, you might find a girl falling in love with a Muslim person and then wearing hijab, and then having many of them, at least not all, but many would describe that this was the worst part of their life. So having people have these people, when they have access to the culture, it could be bad. But I always hope that Western people would have maybe more confidence in their culture and in their history and their values of enlightenment, and that might hopefully make them have good effect maybe on this culture.
I totally agree with that. I often think that if Middle Eastern cultures, even my country, which is Turkey, for example, if these cultures are more exposed to different languages, especially to English, which is the language that most of the world converses in online internationally, then this is definitely a big step toward being more enlightened, toward learning more about the world, learning more about different cultures, learning more about reality and about science. And it is definitely a step toward progress, toward the progress of their own civilizations that they learn English, which is why I think it is very important, and why I would love to see more effort put toward teaching these people to speak different languages, because that really helps. I mean, when I look back and I compare people who don't speak English to people who are ready to speak English, I see that there is a vast difference between those two people, between how open-minded the one side is compared to the other. I completely agree with that.
I would like to comment on the agitation. You were asking about, why they are so agitated while you're being so nice and calm. And I think it's mostly like people in my country and in many other Islam countries, they build their life around religion. It's how they get their comfort, their social status, it's everything. So taking away religion would be, you would crumble their whole world in a way. So that would explain why they get so defensive. Yeah. It's not usual in my country or in other maybe Islamic countries to have people criticizing religion on TVs and to get access to this sort of people. However, internet is very interesting, but internet is mostly, you find big bubbles in the internet. So people who think alike maybe attract, and they watch each other, and so there is that factor of confirmation bias. Uh-huh. When you get out of your bubble and jump in another bubble or more public sphere, it gets very maybe different. It could be very confrontational and problematic, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Muslim societies are also very, very chauvinistic about what they believe in. Very many people in the West do not really fully understand understand it when we try to explain that in Muslim societies you cannot really properly voice your opinions. They don't understand that because they tend to compare that to Western society. I believe you are in Germany right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you are in Germany. In Germany, for example, it is completely normal to be an atheist. It is completely normal. No one even wants to discuss that. No one even wants to talk about it. I mean, if you say that you're an atheist, no one really cares. You know, everyone is like, so what? No, but it's
well,
not even.
People don't care. However, there are very interesting Christian activists, missionaries around, especially for people who are refugees and asylum seekers. They attract to us and they tend to try to persuade us to be maybe Christian.
Definitely. But compare that to the Muslim world. I mean, here you have some Christians who think, come to Jesus, believe in Jesus, and then you go into the Muslim world and you cannot even talk about anything. You cannot even voice your opinion because you are afraid of being.
The most important part of it is that they are not political, because Islam has political aspect. Christian in here who say, no, we want a secular world. We want it to be secular. We don't want to govern. So that is the most important part of it, and it's very nice.
Yeah, that's a different. That is something that I talk about very often. Now, some people, I think it is pretty clear, but I think this is a very important aspect that needs to be understood in order to understand why Islam is so different and why we have an issue with Islam. That Islam is a completely political system. It is not just a personal religion where you have a personal relationship between the believer and God. It is completely political. From head to toe political. It is. I'm currently working on a project actually where I compare how Christian history was different from Islamic history, whereas Christian people and Christian nations, for example, adhered to the belief in God, and they just were Christians. The Islamic world was not like that. The Islamic world was directly led by Islam. The Islamic world was an Islamic empire. So the head of religion in Islam was not just the head of religion. The head of religion was also the head of the state and the head of the military, the head of the entire army. So army, state, and religion are all one body in Islam, while in other religions, like in Christianity, that is separate. Christians today, for example, don't wish to have a theocracy. They never properly wished to have one single body that manages religion, military, and state. While in Islam, that is a fundamental part of the religion. It's not something that people made up. It is part of the religion. That's how Muhammad led the religion, for example, and that is how people still are. People still think that Islam, that religion, that Islamic fundamentalism should be part of politics. That is where politics should come from. That is what everyone's life must be based on. That is what the rules must be based on. And if you are suddenly a dissenter, if you suddenly say, I don't believe in this, and I believe that there are scientific theories that explain our origins and where we will, and what will happen to us when we die, then that is not just a different opinion to these people, to Muslims. It is directly dangerous. It is directly an unwelcomed, dangerous idea that they think would separate society in a violent way, and they have to stop this. Which is why they get so angry when they hear someone say that they are an atheist. I mean, I was in Turkey, for example, and even in Turkey, just expressing that you are an atheist, and Turkey is a fairly secular country compared to the others, also to Egypt, for example. Even there, you can get into a lot of trouble by just saying that you don't believe in God, that you don't believe in Allah. So people really need to understand that. But back to you, Mohamed. How did it happen that you stopped believing in Islam, or were you a Muslim at some point and you stopped believing? How exactly is your backstory with atheism and Islam?
It's a for me. It's a very interesting story. It all starts since I was a child. I've grown up in a kind of Islamic country, Islamic family that cares about teaching me Quran, that cared about me going to the mosque. Maybe when I was 6, since I was 6, I would go to a school to teach me how to properly read and understand Quran. I would go to the mosque maybe multiple times a day, and I had a lot of Islam in my childhood. And then When I was 8, I started to have my doubts because I think a lot of religion, and it's normal maybe to start to have questions. And then some questions are not really permitted, okay? So I kept it to myself. And little by little, I found myself becoming agnostic. I was like, okay, how about maybe he lied? Adult people lie. I was 8 back then. So adult people could lie. Why I should believe that Muhammad never lied? Why I should believe that he's not? He lied to everyone. And I started to think this way until I actually became an agnostic. However, I kept it to myself because I didn't want to have like any sort of punishment or being grounded or whatever. And keeping it to myself means that I will have to do all the Islamic activities, going to the mosque, going to Islamic school, to everything. One day I was at Friday prayers. It's like an equivalent of Sunday prayers for Christians. And the Imam back then was preaching and was talking about, okay, anything you ask Allah for before dawn, Allah will answer that. Allah will give you that. So I was like, okay, this is a cool experiment. And I went home, I slept, I waked up right before dawn, and I was like, Allah, if you are really there, please make my math teacher be absent tomorrow because I didn't finish her homework. Yeah, and then I went next day to school and I found out that my math teacher actually resigned. And we spent 2 weeks without a math teacher. Unfortunately, I fell a victim for logical fallacies and false premise. And I went back to Islam, and I spent my teens as being a very strict Muslim. Like I would say, maybe when I was a teenager, if I had an opportunity, I would have maybe joined Al-Qaeda or whatever. Like I used to fantasize about dying in the name of Allah. Yeah, and that's what religion could do to someone. Anyways, when I became in my late teens, I started to learn English, and I started to be more open to the Western culture and Western philosophy, Western science. And little by little, I started to realize that my Islam cannot really be true, and Abrahamic religion generally cannot be real, and it's full of logical fallacies and mistakes. And I became an atheist. Of course, also I've kept that to myself, and I had like a normal life, doing all the Islamic rituals normally, until, of course, I started to meet in real life some like-minded people who also not Muslims left Islam. And I would like to mention how significant is that. How significant it is to meet someone in this environment who thinks like you. It's not easy, and it's very valuable because you find Islam everywhere. It's on everybody's behavior. It's in everybody's mind, how people react, how people think, how people behave. It's like you see the stamp or the traces of religion in the culture everywhere. You would be walking on the street, you would find the Quran everywhere. You would find bumper stickers talking about La ilaha illallah, for instance. Yeah. So you would hear azan 5 times a day. Of course, you're in Turkey, you have that. So Islam is literally everywhere, and its manifestation is everywhere, whether in real world, whether in work, whether in school. So it's very, very valuable to find a like-minded person. And I found them, I fell in love with them, and I had a community, had a nice one. And I felt like maybe they deserve a chance. Like we as ex-Muslims or atheists deserve a chance. Egypt have always either in the hands of Islamists, like pure Islamists, or people who are more conservative Egyptians who might not really have an Islamic agenda, but they are Muslims and they partially force or enforce Islam and some Islamic laws, especially when it comes to personal status laws. and maybe we should have had maybe we should have a chance. Maybe we could do some changes. We could make this society a better place. You find the manifestation of the negative effects of religion in my country everywhere. You would look at women, and you would find violence against them, illiteracy, all of that. And it's all drawn from that. Of course, culture has to do something with it, but the culture and religion are infused together. They are sometimes it's really hard to separate them. Because you would ask someone, okay, why you beat your wife? Maybe you shouldn't. And then he would but Allah told me to do so. Yeah. What to do with that? Well, of course, injustice against LGBT people, is terrible. Islamic countries are definitely the worst place for someone to be not heterosexual. Mm-hmm. The economy, for instance. In my country, you'd find people having children, a lot of children, and the government cannot really give them good education or good health care. Because there are too many people, and when you ask them, okay, maybe you should not do that, and then you be responded by, Allah will do the planning, Allah will give them, Allah will provide, and of course that Islamic hadith where Muhammad was talking about how we should procreate as much as possible, and that is a good virtue. Yeah. All of that are infused in the culture and affecting the behavior of people. And whenever you try to change things, you would get bumped with that way of thinking, with that ideologies, and with all of that. So it's really having devastating effects on almost all aspects of life. Because the intensity is very high. I came here and I don't see a lot of manifestation of religion. Yeah. For instance, in my ID, I have my religion. I have religion written in my ID, and that doesn't happen here, for instance. Yeah. So it has a legal aspect and it has societal aspect, and it's too much. It's really too much, and it has to stop. For this part of the world to become a better place, religion needs to be replaced maybe gradually with better philosophies and better ideologies, humanism. Whatever, but just this model is failing and it doesn't really work well.
We have a history in the last century of many countries, including Egypt, actually, and including Turkey and other countries. They were on a path of becoming more enlightened, more secular, more open-minded, and it was kind of going that way until recently. In the last half century, again, people started falling back into the hands of traditionalist, conservative Islam, and the Islamist parts of the population started to regain the power and also the voice, the major voice in the public. The same thing also happened in Egypt.
It's the Islamic awakening. Where plenty of Muslim people are like, okay, we don't need secularism anymore. Islam is the answer. Islam is the solution. And they had a lot of success, actually, unfortunately. And they had support sometimes from governments, and sometimes they became the government, like what happened in Iran. And Saudi Arabia had that oil money and started to spreading their very devastating ideology all over North Africa. And before that, I think it was Western people occupying and having colonies around in the Middle East and around Africa. And maybe that could explain why there was some leaning toward secularism. But they left, and I think they took that and they left a mess behind.
Yeah, the thing is, many people who think that there is an Islamic awakening, an Islamic resurgence going on in the Middle East, think that people are becoming more Islamic and more Islamist. That's actually not completely true. That would be a very pessimistic view, and if that was true, that would kind of that wouldn't be very great, but it's actually not really that way. What really happened is that as a result of the West basically disarming and dissolving the Islamic empire of the Middle East and the Islamic dominance of the Middle East, and establishing colonies and bringing more secular forces, more secular laws into power, many of the Muslim countries just were made secular, either by outer forces, either by the West, or by forces inside that were that favored the West, or that were favored by the West, or that were favored by their own people as saviors, such as in Turkey, for example. In Turkey, Ataturk was, for example, the secularist hero of Turkey, who, after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, re-established Turkey and thought we have to get rid of this backward system of Islam and have to establish secularism, because secularism is what is the future. And these people set up these countries and set up these new systems, these new laws. But what happened there is that while secularists were making the laws, and while secularists were leading the country into a better future, they were doing that while the radical people, while those people who are into religion were staying low and sitting and still existing in the country. Those people didn't just go away. People didn't just become less religious. The religious population was just in a corner, and they were not in power. And after a while, after the West left, those religious people started assembling again, started organizing again, and started working together, and being more active in politics. And eventually, they started taking over again. So people didn't become more religious. The religious parts of the population just started becoming more active in politics and more powerful. The same happened in Egypt, in Iran, in so many Middle Eastern countries, even in Turkey, in many countries, it happened the same way. But I would always hope for the future that I even think it is already happening right now, that people understand that it was a giant mistake to let go of the secularization of their countries, and that they will eventually get sick of how of political Islam and return again to a path of secularism and enlightenment. It has, the people of Iran are very sick of what they have brought on themselves. For example, people of Iran are sick of the Islamic regime. People of Turkey are increasingly sick of political Islam that dominates their country. I think in Egypt we have seen during the Arab Spring how after political Islamists, how the Muslim Brotherhood came into power and started to implement laws that were just ridiculous, and
nobody stood a chance against the Islamic people back then. Like, it was actually a period of democracy, and people were allowed to express themselves, and nobody stood a chance. No secular person stood a chance against the Islamists back then. And it required a military coup to take them down. I understand, of course, and with the internet, you could have the opportunity or the chance to actually change people, because I believe that these countries countries in the Middle East have never really became secular. It only maybe had some secular governments or secular appearance, but from deep inside, everybody had religion in their heart and believed in Allah and believed in whatever. And that is a way where extremists could go to them and make it work to their favor. For instance, in my country, in Egypt, you would have religion being a mandatory subject in schools, and you'd have an Azhar. It's kind of governmental organization, and it's very active at spreading Sunni Islam and representing Sunni Islam in Egypt. It's supported by the government. They control mosques. They have a radio channel, very popular radio channel. They control talk shows that talks about Islam. So generally, they plant the seeds, if I may say, the seeds of extremism, if I may say. Because, they say we are moderates, but being moderate is actually also could lead to extremism, as we have seen that happening. at the end of the day, like, you find terrorists coming out of houses of moderates.
Yeah.
Just you the Quran, you just need to read the Quran, and you'd see the verses talking about violence and whatever, and nobody's really repairing that. Because if you speak Arabic, especially if you speak Arabic, because maybe some people would read the Quran and not understand, and sometimes the translation of the Quran is really not accurate. It's really hard to translate it, and it's easier for Arabic speakers to understand it. Sometimes when they translate it, they make it more nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would find that verse that's encouraging war. You would find that verse that doing whatever, and it's really high. And nobody's is really doing true effort to repair that, to change this image. You know, so you'd always have that window, a little window for extremists or for people who are could grab the whole region back to Islamic eras or under Islamic control. And that's a problem. That's why it's much better to be an atheist, because you definitely closes that door. However, I think politicians not really supporting us, unfortunately, maybe because they, in a way or another, benefit from religion, or because they want to avoid any conflict or clash. Maybe want it to happen naturally, but unfortunately, we don't get enough support as we need to, as it's supposed to happen. Maybe in the West, it's different, but in the Middle East, definitely.
Oh, one thing that I want to say about the whole how extremists come out of moderate places or moderate households is I talked recently with Yasmin Mohammed about the same issue. It is. If you grow up as a Muslim, if you grow up in a Muslim family, and a Muslim family is compared to a Western family, even the average family is very religious compared to an average Western family. Muslim families are very religious people. Even if they are moderate Muslims, they are still often very religious. And if you grow up in such a household, you learn basically from childhood that you learn about the Islamic warriors. You learn about the brave warriors of Islam, of how the early Muslims were so brave, and they would fight the pagans, the polytheists, the infidels, and the Christians and the Jews. And you learn about how glorious and how amazing that was, how you should be proud of that, and how you should look up to that. And as a result of that, it is completely normal that even the most moderate people, especially if moderate Muslims are sinful people, if they think I'm not a good enough Muslim, if such a person has already learned all their lives that the Islamic warriors were brave and that they fought and died for Allah, then such a person can very easily come to the conclusion, I'm not a good Muslim, but maybe I can fight and die for Allah, just like the early Muslims did, just like the companions of the Holy Prophet did, just like Salah ad-Din Ayyubi, or like this and that, just like all those people did. I mean, you grow up with a glorification of war and Islamic jihad all the time. No wonder Islamic extremism doesn't just come out of extremist families that interpret Islam the wrong way. Such a thing is very rare. Extremism comes out of the most moderate households that you can imagine. It just happens that way.
Yes, definitely. This is the situation. It's not so good because Islam especially corrupts your sense of morality.
Yes.
You have that Muhammad is the perfect person in the world. He's faultless, flawless. A perfect example of morality, and then you see what he has done. He has done wars, sex slaves, whatever. He wasn't really a nice guy. He wasn't a good example to anyone. He wasn't a good example to anyone. Marrying a child, whatever. It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. And the problem
he was the guy who would take his bodyguards and let them beat up a person because he did something wrong. That was who Muhammad was. That is not someone that you would respect today if you saw him today.
Exactly. And in a way or another, it really corrupts people's sense of morality to see that as moral and as perfect. So that then you might expect some corrupt behavior from these people.
Yeah.
I remember growing up. Maybe it's different now, but growing up, they would talk about the stories of the Sahaba or Muhammad followers, and they would be saying how it's great to die in the name of Allah.
Yes.
how that's a glory, how you shouldn't be sad about it. I really remember, and those people who were talking, were leading the moderate Islamic movement in Egypt or whatever, and they would talk about crazy stuff. And now I see it crazy. Back then I thought, okay, wow, that's amazing. I would like to be like them. Maybe also I know.
You don't understand back then that is something that is crazy, that it's unacceptable, that it's violent. You don't really understand that. When you are a Muslim, that appears completely normal, completely honorable to you. And when other people point out that there is something aggressive and violent about Islam, you think, what are you talking about? You know, it's Islam is just honorable and peaceful, while you are glorifying war. You don't really understand that until you start doubting and leaving Islam.
Yeah. In the West, to be honest, I didn't have a lot of exposure to Western Muslims. However, I think they also, given the language, call themselves Muslims without really understanding. It's good not to understand it. However, the problem is that because it's bad, why would you want to understand something that would corrupt your behavior? But with the future, they might learn more and more and more, and you don't really know what could happen. It was like mind-blowing for me to see Western people who born in a normal, maybe atheist or Christian house, they would go and join ISIS, for instance. Like, this is freaking crazy. Like, how has that happened? It's a very problematic situation, and I hope by the things that we do, maybe doing activism, raising awareness about these problems in English, nobody would consider entering Islam. And hopefully English speakers who watch this, hopefully they would leave Islam.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I would like to say, you said earlier that there are some of us, there are atheists, there are people who doubt Islam, who leave Islam, but we don't have much support from people in power, from our governments, or from people who have bigger audiences in the Muslim world, and that is sad. But I would say I actually take pride in something here, which is that you and I, and many like us, many atheists, many ex-Muslims, many people who talk about these things actively and openly, who are activists, who talk about open-mindedness, who talk about differences in opinions, who want to respectfully present our position, or disrespectfully, if it matters. We are at the beginning of an enlightenment of the Muslim world. We are the first people who are at the beginning of an enlightenment that is supposed to happen, that is bound to happen in the Islamic world. We are at the beginning of it. You and I are at the beginning of it. Many others like Sharif Kabir and Armin Navabi and all the others. We are at the beginning of this, and we I don't want to say we have a duty. It shouldn't be feel forced, but it is almost like we have a duty, and it is an honorable duty to go out there and to make a beginning and to open the way, to open the path to so many other people who are quiet and who are waiting for someone to speak up, who are afraid, who don't know who to speak to, because they think they are alone. They think they would be rejected, they would be hated, they would be persecuted or punished or even killed. And we are here to open the path for those people, and that's an honorable, wonderful thing. And it just gives me hope to go further and to speak more and more. And by the way, I think you are a great voice. I think you are a fantastic speaker for this cause. I think you represent this cause in a great way. I think your appearance on TV and the way you express your thoughts are wonderful, and I feel honored to have you on board as well, as someone who wants to enlighten the Muslim world and the Islamic world.
Thank you. It's actually great. I feel more an obligation to do it. I feel like I have that obligation for it. Sometimes it's pressure, sometimes it's risky, but somebody has to do it. Like, somebody have to do that, and and I'm willing to sacrifice myself for it. Even here in Germany, you would have some risks for that.
Yes.
For instance, I have friends, and there are people who are ex-Muslims who are loud about criticizing religion and mocking it, and they get in trouble. and sometimes here the police dedicate personals to protect them and to keep them safe. It's not also risk-free in here. For instance, a week and a half ago, I got assaulted in the house that I was staying in. Basically, some of the guys stumbled upon my activism online, and he didn't really like it, and the tension kept building until I got assaulted, and I had to leave the house that I was in and went to another house. To give some background, I live in a house where many other people seeking protection or refugee in Germany live. And you would find a lot of Muslim people, a lot of Arab people in these places, and sometimes it could be risky. However, actually I have made some things, after that I've made some things private on my wall, on my Facebook. However, I'm planning to get it back again, hopefully, and maybe even have a show and talk more about all these issues of religion and freedom and the human rights situations in the Middle East and the violations that happens out of Islam and out of applying religion.
It is a shame that it's risky, that it's dangerous to even go out there and to simply share your opinion, to just say I don't believe in this, and I don't believe in this because of A, B, and C, because of 1, 2, and 3. It is. I mean, I would take care of yourself. We should all take care of ourselves, and I hope we can provide. I hope we can live in a better world, and we can enlighten more people who think that you should be put in danger just because you think a certain way. And we really need more and more people to understand that this is really the way it looks. People in the West often don't understand why this is dangerous, and that people in the Islamic world would react in such ways just to us voicing our opinions. But this is really the way it is, and we need more awareness, we need more enlightenment, we need more help. But hey, I think you're doing very well. I'm totally in support of you. I think you're a great voice, and I hope you keep going on and take care of yourself. And I really feel honored to have you as an ally here, Mohamed.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really appreciated. Thank you.
All right. I think we are almost at the end of our talk. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything you want the world to know? Anything you want people to know?
Nothing in particular. Do you have still any questions? How long is it? Oh, it's an hour actually.
Yeah, we have quite.
Time flies! Oh my god!
I know.
Whoa! I felt like maybe there is a half an hour remaining or something. Oh,
no, it's been quite a while. We had a very interesting talk. So.
Yes, sure. Thank you for this. I truly appreciate it. Like, that's amazing.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Mohamed, again for being here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing your opinions. I value them very much. Thanks everyone for watching, and I would say stay away from Islam.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure. You're an amazing person, and keep it up. It's just amazing. Your work is fascinating, and I'm a big fan of yours. Thank you for having me on your show. It's really appreciated.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And have a good day. Stay away from Islam.